what's his current status? We know that there's been some health challenges. Of course, we should expect there being health challenges, seeing he's been locked up damn near 50 years and he's going on 80. So Leonard's pretty much been locked up since he was 20 something, correct? Or early 30?
No, he was 32, I think.
32.
He's going to be
Wow.
80 in September, Kalonji. He'll be 80 in September.
He's been locked up since he was 32.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I have children older than he is now than when he was locked up. This is insane. Jennifer, talk to us. What's going on?
I'm so glad you asked, Kalonji. I will start by saying that there is no excuse for the Bureau of Prisons not to be providing Leonard adequate medical care or no medical care at all. The struggle for medical care for Leonard is almost as old as the struggle for his freedom, because he has never really received medical care. And yes, he is almost 80 years old. He has been incarcerated for nearly 5 decades. He is on a walker and yet needs a wheelchair. But what I will tell you is, in my view, the truth, and that there are many ways to incarcerate someone. Obviously, the really prolonged sentences that go on disproportionately long, trying to break the spirit by breaking and divorcing that prisoner from family ties and community ties. But there is also the denial of medical care, which is absolutely deliberate, and it is absolutely insidious, and it is even more so absolutely unacceptable, because it is an attempt to debilitate that prisoner from being strong enough, just simply healthy enough, to defend himself or theirselves against their incarceration, to disrupt advocacy efforts, to distract and to drain, both in time and resources away from a political committee or the support committee or advocates, and instead focus much of the energy on getting that prisoner humane care. So it's a dynamic approach that has a layer of issues and ramifications that are very adverse for prisoners, political and otherwise. Leonard is currently experiencing medical neglect. Both the United Nations and our own physician expert have independently concluded that not only is Leonard not receiving the standard of care, that he can never receive the standard of care while incarcerated by the Bureau of Prisons. The treatment that Leonard is receiving right now is below the bare minimum. It's in violation of the 8th Amendment, disability provisions, the Convention Against Torture, and also the spirit of the Mandela rules. And there's a proverbial laundry list of current conditions Leonard has, including kidney disease, heart condition, severe diabetes, blood pressure issues, bone spurs, degenerative joint disease. He has some injuries to his jaw that really needs attention. And he's in constant pain from arthritis in his hip and shoulder. He's in need of a wheelchair, a prostate, an enlarged prostate, aortic aneurysm, which could burst at any time. And on top of all of that, Leonard, at this point in time, has been refused dental care. And so his teeth are ground down. He does not have dental prosthetics, and he has about a few teeth left. And so it is hard for him to consume food, and certainly food that is good for a diabetic. He has been prescribed from the Bureau of Prisons a CPAP machine so that he could breathe, well at night and safely. However, they will not provide Leonard with an electrical plug so that he can plug in that CPAP machine. And right now, he is experiencing intermittent blindness.
Hold on a second, Jennifer. So you're saying they provided him with the machine, but they're not giving him the electricity or the outlet to plug it in.
That's correct.
Is that what you're saying? So
Correct.
they're giving him the machine just to say they gave it to him? I mean, how does that work?
It should not work that way, and it is one of the most nonsensical things I've ever heard in terms of medical practice. That CPAP machine sits by Leonard when I know that he needs it without an electrical plug for him to plug it in. I mean, that, as I said, it's unacceptable.
Sorry, go ahead. You mentioned he was going blind. I'm sorry. I had to cut you off because I'm just sitting there. I'm like, did she just say that they gave him the machine but nowhere to plug it up? I mean, this is how hideous these bastards are. I mean, they're just so insane. They come with, you know, their stipulations have stipulations. They're like, okay, we're going to give you this machine, but, you know, you can just look at it and imagine what could be done if you actually had electricity. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like, yes, he is experiencing intermittent blindness, near or total. And so that means in one eye, which is already diminished about 80%. So he's about 80% blind in one eye. That means he can no longer see. And that blindness, 80% blindness in the first place, was caused by medical neglect of the Bureau of Prisons. I mean, it's obviously scary to hear, you know, when anybody says suddenly I can't see and they don't know why. So we've done our best to work with the Bureau of Prisons and call to their attention their obligations, of course, under the 8th Amendment, the torture provisions, but also disability provisions. They've started some examinations, but certainly not analysis of Leonard's condition, and have told us that it will be 8 to 10 months for Leonard to see an ophthalmologist, you know, at all, which is, you have an 80-year-old, you know, who they've decided to keep in a maximum security prison on a walker who cannot see. And that is why we've requested, pending Leonard's release, a medical transfer, because we believe that it meets the BOP's own standards. But yet they've been less than communicative about that procedure with us and where they are in that status. You know, it is still our hope that they will abide by their own policy and do so to get Leonard the care that he needs, because as I say, there's absolutely no excuse for it. We can put people in other countries. We can put people on the moon. We can do all kinds of things, but yet we cannot care. They cannot care for the people that they've decided to hold in their custody. And to your point about abolition, that entire system needs to be abolished entirely. In my view, and that is why the neglect, the ongoing neglect for which they've had every opportunity to fix, we have gone to the United Nations and requested the intervention of the Special Rapporteur on Torture. And we hope, I mean, that's not simply symbolic, it is a request for communications, for a discussion to begin about how Leonard is treated. The working group on arbitrary detention of the UN has already stated that, per international provisions and so-called democratic norms, that Leonard's incarceration is arbitrary, constitutes an arbitrary detention for many reasons in that 17-page report that Dawn goes on, talked about earlier.
I'm very grateful that you are stopped through today to rap with us. I'm stuck because I think that, you know, there are folks in the chat, there are folks who are viewing this now and will end up viewing this later on. And I think that sometimes, we have these shows like here at Black Power Media and so many other YouTube channels and, TV, radio, so on and so forth. And I feel like a lot of folks take it as entertainment purpose, for like an entertainment purpose type situation. And we say that that's a shame. We say that, you know, I can't believe they're doing this, and oh, that's horrible. When, you know, these people suck and they go on with their lives after the show goes off.
Yes.
But folks like Leonard and Mumia and Veranza and so many others, they're still in this box. So you're saying, for the record, let me bring this home for folks to fully understand. We're talking about a man who is nearly 80 years old.
That's right.
Going blind.
Yes.
All types of different health situations, from dental to mobility.
Yes.
On a walker.
Yeah.
And the thought of there's no logic why folks should even have to file for a compassionate release. You should be able to just look at this man and say that this is criminal, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, this is a quote unquote country, which we know is a criminal settler state. We know how this country came about.
That's right.
You know, I don't have to get into that. I don't think anyone's disillusioned into thinking that this is some land of the free and the home of the brave. We know it's the land of the thief and the home of the slave. We look at this dynamic, and this country brags about democracy. This country brags about going to help civilize the savages. That's what they say, right? This is what they do. And it's so clear it's about domination and their hatred for those of us who resist. Because that's the only reason that Leonard is locked up right now.
That's right.
It's because he resisted.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? If he'd have just, and that's what Rochelle McGee was talking about, you know, who was released and last year, and of course transitioned shortly after 67 years in prison. Right? 67 years old. This man gets out, he's like, what, 83, 84 years old? You know, the Sundiata, so on and so forth, that they hold till they're 80-something years old. And so many other political prisoners who have suffered and who are continuing to suffer behind these walls. So many, I mean, literally right now at this point, there's more political prisoners. And I know, Paulette, you know, that you, with your work with Jericho, going back 20, 30 years plus, myself and others, we can recall the posters, the Set the Captives Free posters,
Right.
and how so many of those brothers and sisters we couldn't imagine ever getting out. Now we look at them, and the majority of them are ancestors.
That's right.
Some have been released after they've been worn and torn, but the majority of them are ancestors. And now we're looking at folks like Leonard. Mumia will turn 70 next week on the 24th of April. And for folks who are in the Philadelphia area, make sure that you come out. Many of us will be there. But we're talking about Leonard is going on 80 years old. And I'm just, I'm sorry, how can I say this by being nice? It's fucked up. That's the nicest thing I could say. It's fucked up how these bastards operate and how they continue to operate, and how we're still arguing about a Democrat and a Republican, when in fact that we know that this whole system is infested. We know that this whole system is a germ. And the only way that we'll truly get justice is this system has to be replaced. And that's all to it. It's not, you know, you can fill in the blanks. You can say, oh, is he saying this? I'm not saying anything. There'll never be justice on stolen land. We know that.
That's right.
We know that the blood that's been spilled and the blood that's continuing to be spilled and the blood that will be spilled tomorrow and the next day and the next year, so on and so forth. They'll never, it's impossible to get justice on this poison soil.